Hi guys. Okay. Boy, what a weather dance we've been doing, hadn't it? Last several days it's been cold temps. We're down in the 30s and stuff, and now it jumped up to the 70s today, and it's going to be rainy 2 days, and the temperature's going to plunge again. So it's going to be an interesting spring down here. We're a week away from my event, and so if you do me a favor and go to my Facebook page. I'm going to post a thing when we get done here asking for a head count of who all is coming, so I got an idea how many people are going to be there. And I appreciate you if you'd go to Facebook when I post it at the end of this and say, hey, I'm coming or whatever, so I can get a rough idea how many people are showing up. I'd appreciate it. Choir boys, good evening. Ryan, good evening. Joe, good evening. Scotty, White Oak 26, good evening. Earl, good evening. Ronald, good evening. Tony Powers, good evening, sir. Hope the weather's good up there where you're at. Herbert, good evening. Gulf Coast Pine Belt, good evening. Mount Kephart, good evening. Jeff, good evening. Worm Wranglers in the house. St. Patty's Day, good. I always got away with it because I got green eyes. Angry Ranger, good evening, sir. I'm assuming, sir, they I don't think they've ever let women in Rangers yet, have they? I know they were trying to get in Special Forces, and I don't know. But I don't think there are any lady Rangers, but I will assume that it's a male Ranger in my ignorance and old age. Oh, too much rain in Arkansas. Yeah, we're getting a wet spring. Usually what happens is when the El Nino breaks up, and it did this time, the atmosphere kind of rebounds a little bit, and we just get waves of rain, especially on the West Coast and across the South. But we're not getting the intense storms that we do on the other years. El Nino years, we'll have real intense storms roll off the Gulf. And by this time in March, I mean, you've had some severe thunderstorms. We haven't had any. I mean, we had one thunderhead come over the house where it went boom loud enough, it rattled the windows. Other than that, it's just been light rain, so I'm kind of happy with it. James, good evening, South Carolina. Tennessee Smoky, good evening. Well, it's been a very busy couple of days. I not only have got to do my usual videos, I now have to shoot additional videos to be able to do for next week while I'm gone camping. I plan on being out there Wednesday around lunch, and tomorrow I'm going to talk to the guy about firewood because that was the game plan, and I had talked to the guy earlier and he hadn't got back with me, so I've got a date to go see him tomorrow and make sure we got firewood coming. If not, I got to hustle and find some firewood. It's one of the reasons I want to know how many people are coming, so how much to get, because it looks like it may cool off a little on us. These polar vortexes kind of rotate around and come back. So it's warming back up now. It's moving north, and sometime next week it should rotate back in. We shall see. And what's on here? Sorry, just checking out. Just making sure it ain't something urgent. Okay, I have a question. As far as Ruger Old Army goes, I went on Gunbroker to purchase one, and they said you have to have an FFL because ATF is asking for them to be registered now. In certain states, I believe Illinois and Ohio now require them to have an FFL because you can get a drop-in cartridge conversion for it. But to my knowledge, it didn't apply anywhere else. So it's one of them things that's on the fence. We don't know which way this is going to go right now. To my knowledge, in the past, you didn't. But when they went to making cartridge conversion cylinders, I knew then there was eventually going to be some sort of designation. Either they're going to require them to put a serial number on the cylinder so that you're doing an FFL for the cylinder, and then that way I can put it into whatever cap and ball I want, which would make the most sense, because if this 1860 Army Uberti conversion cylinder has a serial number and then I can drop it onto any Uberti 1860 Army, as opposed to put down the serial number of the percussion gun that, if it only has a percussion cylinder, is not a firearm by ATF or anybody else's rule. And therefore, it would make more sense to put the serial number on the cylinder, wouldn't it? Pam, good evening, ma'am. Terry, good evening. 2020 evening. You up yonder in the cold country, Alberta, Calgary. Good evening, Outdoors, Rashawn. You're under a tornado watching, Ranger. Thumbs up to you. Hang in there, brother. An old Ranger acquaintance of mine used to say, you hug the ground and wait for the round. We hear them coming. We just get a hold of something and hang on, see where it's going. Hello, Briar Smoke to Sierra Nevada. Oh, yeah, y'all got record snows out there. Them people just don't know how to deal with the snow. And a lot of them communities that high up, it's been decades since they had that kind of snowpack up in those areas. They get snow, but not like this. Like the 70s, the winter of 77, 78, they got that kind of snow in California. And any machinery or whatever they bought for back in them days, they've long got rid of. So they're kind of in a tide out there. Will Killingsworth, doing good. Thank you for asking. Jeff, hello. Tom's Outdoor Adventures, glad you made it. Jeff, hello. Angry Dragon, Texas. Benton, good evening. All right, Will Killingsworth, I've been waiting for this Thursday chat to ask some questions. Throw them at me. Let's see what you got. Charles, how am I doing? Pretty good. I'm full, man. I cooked supper, and it was beef tips and potatoes and a little bit of leftover stir-fry pepper stuff and asparagus. And I cooked for Miss Hope, my wife. She comes in at 6 o'clock, and so I had to wolf down dinner. I am stuffed. Woo! Got to keep my eyes open, otherwise I'm going to fall over. Excuse me one split second. Okay. Barry, good evening to Texas. Brad, hello to Virginia. Diane, good evening. John Kennedy, hello, sir. Looking forward to seeing you. Jonathan Frisbee, looking forward to see you too, brother. I'm going to take my Miss Hope is not going to be camping. She's just, because of her new job, she doesn't have time yet. But she's going to come out on Saturday and spend the day with us and probably come back that night. Plus, one of our old kiddies has got glaucoma, and we have to put drops in her eyes 3 times a day. So she wants to just come out for the day and then come back. And so Miss Hope will be there, Jonathan. It's just, she's just not going to be able to spend as much time. Well, awesome. Bring your son. Yeah. I'm planning on talking about one of the little impromptu discussions I'm going to do is on hammock camping and showing you tips and tricks that I know about hammock camping. I want to do a little impromptu thing on a few knots. I want to do an impromptu thing on hammock camping, and then we'll just see where it goes from there. And I want to discuss navigation with nothing. I'll just announce we're going to do this at such and such time, and we'll give it a try. Worm Wrangler, Amarillo. Amarillo is a place, but for me, it was this big old yellow cat that came up that was a stray and just photobombed into my videos and became my cat. I mean, love him to death. He passed away December a year ago, and from old age. But Amarillo, his son is Raja, and that's the one that we call him Grandboy or Raja, and he takes me for walks. He will walk on a leash. And so every day or every other day, me and him walk the territory where His Majesty can mark trail. So that's with my kitty, and he was a good cat. To be RFU. Cool. Can we have a campfire at the campsite? Do you need to bring firewood, or is there firewood available? I'm trying to get a local provider to bring us a cord of wood. Bring a little of your own, at least to get us started. And yes, you can have a fire at your campsite, no problem. Do you do any pet-friendly camps? Yeah, my camp is pet-friendly. As long as your pet is behaved. He's not one of those dogs going to bark all night or something that's aggressive. If it's something that you can bring them out and socialize, bring them. We've had people bring dogs several times. Country boy, he brings his little dog. Just again, make sure that he's something that can be around people. I can't bring my Nugget out because Nugget is not socialized. He loves me and Mama, so to speak. Anybody else, he's fur and fang. He's part chow. He's a cross between, I think, a pit and a chow. He's just a mutt we ended up with years ago. He's 14 years old. He's about blind, and if he smells a stranger, he's fur and fangs. He's like a 5-year-old. He's ready to fight, boy. He's a good guard dog, but I honestly don't think he'd bite anybody. But boy, he puts on a great show. Okay, Gordon. Cody Dixon, I have a lighter, a ferro rod, waterproof matches, a small magnifying glass, cotton, and char cloth. Do you recommend me getting a flint and steel set as well? No. Your ferro rod will do a much better job than the flint and steel. Flint and steel looks good and everything, but the average spark coming off of even a really good flint and steel set is somewhere around 500 to 700 degrees. The spark coming off a ferro rod is a couple of thousand degrees. And so if the object of the game is produce a spark, ferro rod beats it by far. So I don't carry one in my kit. I do know how to do it, and I did it for many, many years in living history. And I like to show people how to do it, how you can just take a piece of hard steel and a hard rock, sometimes get the sparks off of it, as long as you got char material to catch it. But I don't include one in my kit, and I don't recommend people do it. Now, absolutely take and try out what you want to learn with. People that want to use the fire piston, great, try it out, but always have the backups. Like I said, I want 3 ignition sources. 2 work when they're wet, those waterproof matches, and the ferro rod does, and you can dry out the big lighter. 3 sources of tinder, at least 2 of which work whenever they're wet. A hunk of fat wood that I can shave down to the dry, and some sort of coated or protected tinder that I can, like those wads or whatever you get. Beyond that, you're good. That'll handle 90% of your fire tasks. Worm Wrangler, sorry to hear. Been watching your old video. Oh yeah, he lives in them videos. And there are times I'll admit I've just put on a video, some home videos I've got of me trying to do a project and him walking in and out and him asleep. My wife's homepage is me in a hammock asleep and him laying on my chest asleep because he'd get up in the hammock and want to sleep with me. I wanted to take him camping, but it just never happened. Killingsworth. Looking forward to it. We live in Panama City, not far from me, about an hour and a half, hour and a half, somewhere along there. But they've got a lot of places to go. There's state parks and stuff like that. Now, here's the thing a lot of people don't realize. The Choctawhatchee River, where it crosses into Florida and then flows down and ends up going into that bay, Choctawhatchee Bay, which is between Panama City and Fort Walton Beach. That entire river is considered a state park, and you can camp on it for free. You can canoe on it, kayak on it, and camp on it for free. If you'll go look in Florida parks and look up Choctawhatchee River State Park, Choctaw like the Indians, Hatchie, Hatchee Park, and that's a place you can go. You can have a wilderness out there, and it'd be a good place to go there in North Florida. It'd be 40 minutes from you. And they don't talk about it. That's one of the things. People don't realize that whole river is a state park. Jeff, can't bring the tiger. Okay, years and years ago, back in the 90s, one of my extra jobs was I worked at PetSmart. And a local guy down here near Dothan, Alabama for 40 years, he raises big cats, from cubs all the way to adult, because they're going to be going into like Busch Gardens, Disney World, whatever. These animals are raised and are hand fed. They're never allowed to be anything but a pet, so that when you put them in those big parks and stuff, they're not aggressive toward humans. They think of humans as friendly. You know what I mean? You don't want to just turn them loose and let people walk out. But when you make that ride through the safari thing down there and lions and stuff walk up to the window and look at you, that's the kind of stuff he raises. Well, we were doing a promotion for you could bring your pets in and get a picture with Santa, and he brought in his tiger. And I came around the corner and he saw me, and he liked me for some reason, and he leaped up and put his paws around my neck and went to rubbing on my beard. And the guy that was filming it, for doing for the get your picture with the thing, filmed it, and it ended up in a promotion in California for PetSmart of me standing there scruffing the neck and smiling at a tiger. So it was impromptu. We hadn't planned anything, and the cat liked me. He had him on a big chain, and he just hopped up and went to rubbing on me. So I have hugged a tiger before, believe it or not. Somewhere there's a video. I need to do a deep search one day and find it. Yep, Jonathan Frisbee. Be weather aware, be ready to stow gear and get to cover. That's the way it can be down here. I'll warn everybody if I feel something's coming or there's a storm coming, everybody can cover their stuff up. But be prepared for a storm. We may not, we may. But always be prepared in the south this time of year for a storm, because they can blow up in a matter of minutes and clear skies, and 20 minutes later it's thundering, shaking the ground, and you get severe storm. Be ready for storm if you're coming to my event. Mount Campart, is there a water station on hand for the event? No, we do not have water at the site. You got the lake. So if you got a way to filter water, right there. But you run back up the road about 5 miles to the little convenience store, and we can get water there. So it's not like we're in the middle of the wilderness, but at the same time, bring your own water. And if you've got something to filter water with, that's great. We should be all right. Blackie, I'll be bringing you a slingshot gift from Donald, Mike. Okay. Great. Appreciate it. Looking forward to spending some time with you, brother. Garen, I'm considering ordering a WCSK and trying to decide on whether I like the Kydex sheaths or the leather. I love the leather, but the Kydex sheath is really, really good. If you're looking for something that's going to be like in your bug out bag more than you're carrying a lot, get the Kydex, definitely. If you're wanting it for more of a tactical set going to, get the Kydex. I like the leather. That's just me and my preference. But I wear stitch gear leather on all my WCSKs because that they just go together. Got to have them. Ryan Walker, can you live on it for free? You're talking about the Choctawhatchee State Park. If you were in some sort of boat, you could keep moving, possibly, as long as you didn't stay in one place very long. Ooh, excuse me. Peter, Blackie, do you need an expensive compass to do compass courses, or will a simple Silva compass work? Should work just fine. It's how precise you're wanting to do it. If it's general directions and just get me within close of it, a standard compass is perfectly fine. Where you need those advanced compasses, when you're trying to get down really small, and when they're trying to do geocaching, and when you go like to the Pathfinder School and these others, they're trying to teach you like military type, where they want you to hit this 3-foot circle. It's really more accurate than it needs to be for general navigation out there. But if you're going to be doing any kind of geocaching or whatever, yeah, you're going to appreciate a better compass. But for just standard navigation to A to B and don't get lost type stuff, the standard compass will be perfectly fine. Okay, Diane, I recently purchased a Remington Model 44. It has several military inspector markings and cartouches. How can you tell if this revolver was used in the war? The vast majority of them were. Now, you got to remember at that time in history, Colt factory had burned. And so their production kind of didn't stop, but it slowed down. And that's one of the reasons the Remingtons got grabbed up. And so the vast majority of them, if it has military cartouche marks, it was in the war. Maybe not an active front unit. It may have been in a reserve unit or an artillery unit, or it might have been somebody in the rear doing recruiting. But it was pretty much a guarantee. They didn't just, give it to anybody walking down the street. If it's got actual military cartouches on it, it was an issue weapon. Now, whether you can trace it to a given battle or something, that's going to require you to go back and find out who it was sold to originally and whatever unit. So it went to this unit out of Ohio, and you got to go research that unit and find out who was issued this gun. Some of them you can still find the record, but we're talking way back yonder now. But I know people who have done that and actually researched original guns and found out the name of the officer that actually was issued this gun during the war. I hope that helps. Well, yeah, I've got a Grail GeoPress, and that's what I carry to the camp. I carry 5 gallons, and I carry my GeoPress. So if I start running short, I can just start pressing and filtering and refill anything I need. Choir boys, Garen lives about 25 miles from me. We're in northeast Florida. As much as I love leather, go to the Kydex. There is a very strong point for that because the heat and humidity and everything down here. I do a lot of work to take care of my leather. And if you don't want to have such maintenance, go to the Kydex. George Friends, how would you plan for the way the world is going? You're going to have to, if you're wanting to become completely independent, and let me tell you what a daunting task that is. You're going to have to learn how to plant and rotate crops on your own with no electronics and no power. Old time doing it. You're going to have to learn how to harvest and process wild game for your meat sources. You're going to have to learn how to barter, have some sort of skill that you can create and then turn around and trade it for things that you want. Like, can I make baskets out of split white oak? They'll be valuable at that time. Can I do blacksmithing? Can I whatever? Those are the things. I wish it was something as easy as, just pile it all in a pile and be done with it. I had a discussion with a gentleman several years ago that he was preparing for great upheaval. And he had thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition, and he had all this stuff. And when he got done, I pointed out and said, yes, sir, you are prepared for a firefight. I'll give you that. How much gasoline you got put up? You going to tote all that stuff? Because stationary is just a target. You got to be able to move. And so, well, I'll fortify my house. I bet me and 100 of my friends will find a way to get to you. You'll be in a prison because every redneck with a 270 is a sniper to 300 yards. You're going to live indoors 24/7 and never ever come out like a turtle. Yeah. So the idea of making a fortified compound works in the military. It doesn't work in the real world where there ain't nobody coming to get you. And 300 people on the outside want what you got. They're going to find a way. Humans are real creative. So you got to look like you got nothing, and you got to be able to move with the flow to find a place to finally secure. That's an in-depth, multiple-hour discussion that I don't want to get into in here. But if we're ever at a gathering or something together and we got time, you want to talk, I'll be glad to detail. But listen to me, guys. This is you just asked, how does a nuclear reactor work? That's comparable. I mean, all the interconnected stuff that has to happen for you to be completely independent. It's going to be tough. So, but I'd be more than happy to detail what my thoughts are on. But it's in depth. Washburn Billy, hello to Michigan. Jeff Conley, good evening. Chad, how accurate is the history of the Civil War? He who wins writes the history books. I believe that actual battles will be fairly correct. Anything political, because they went through and a lot of the stuff was suppressed, a lot of the stuff was parted out. Whatever the president was of the United States we had in the 1880s, he was the one that said that we must make the war not about states' rights, but of other means, so that the South has no moral leg to stand upon. And I'm not saying they went back and rewrote some history, but he definitely suppressed some stuff that had existed beforehand. So the war itself, battles, yeah, pretty much the way it was. What was going on in the mindset of people, and I'm in no way defending that, I don't think so. You're going to have to go a lot more in depth to find out what people were really thinking. Mountain Cap Art, I hope you're going to be there. Hope we're going to get to meet. Yeah, bring a basic. We'll set you up. We'll find a place. There's plenty of trees to set up. Ty R, Blackie, do you prefer shooting 36 or 44 caliber revolvers? For just sheer enjoyment, I like my 36s. Better on powder because I can use a smaller powder charge. Better on lead because it's a smaller bullet. Accuracy can be just as good. And for small game hunting, they're great. Now, what am I going to be carrying in the field? Most of the time, I'm going to be carrying a 44 because I can load shot cartridges into it easier for snakes. And that's a big prime thing down here where I'm at. So, and I might come up against something like a big bore hog or something like that was a little upset with me. And so the 44 would be a better choice. So my usual, when I'm really going into the backwoods, is going to be a 44. Going to the range, we're just playing around. A lot of times I'll just go to 36. Or if I'm going for, small game hunting, I prefer my 30 rep of the meat and better on the Terry, what's a good ground cover for under your tent? A lot of times I run just on it. You go get a really robust, well-made tarp. It's going to cost you a lot of times. A really good ground cloth like that's going to cost you more than a tent will. And so a lot of times when we were setting up my wife's tent, we don't even have a floor in the tent. We just put stuff down to keep our feet clean at night when we're changing clothes or things. The rest of the time it's just dirt floor. If I'm wanting to put but if a tent that did have a floor, I'd put just a plain old blue tarp from Walmart underneath it to give it a little bit more resistance. But if you want to go the route of I want something really nice, find a tarpaulin company or one of these companies that makes the tarps to go into 18-wheelers. And tell them what I'm looking for. I need a square this big, and it's okay if it's recycled tarp. And you get a lot of 18-wheelers and stuff like that where they get a tarp tore up. So it's a 40-foot long tarp, 10 feet wide, and half of it got shredded. That means I can cut it and make a 10 by 10 tarp, right? And I bet I can get a whole lot cheaper. And so that's one source. Find people that drive 18-wheelers or talk around. A lot of times you can find one of them. Or companies that make awnings to go into buildings. They'll have scraps. They can make you up a tarp pretty good. And that's normally a thicker, tougher, more rubberized. It makes a really good ground cloth to go up under a tent. Wait a minute. I think I'm see if I can scroll back up here. Peter, no, the water's fine to purify. It isn't scummy or anything like that. It's pretty clear water. And so it's easy to run your filter up there. It's not going to plug up easy. Garrett, yeah, the WCSK made out of ABL, excellent steel. I've got several of his in ABL. We worked a long time to get that ABL. That was me and Dan and William back and forth, and that was because the SEAL teams wanted it, because SEAL Team 2 and SEAL Team 4 had WCSKs, and they wanted it out of stainless because it was going to be in salt water all the time. And that's the reason we went to experimenting with it until we finally worked out the super secret formula that when we went to Blade Show, some big authority made the statement. He said, I think there's 3 people in the United States, 3 people in the world that have figured out ABL, and one of them is William Collins. So, yeah, you'll be very happy with that ABL. I'm very happy with it. Chad, school bus moves a lot of stuff. Very true. And those are fairly robust vehicles. Good ground clearance, too. George Friends, anytime. Dark Knight Diesel, that's the thing. Community effort. Because where I'm really strong at and I'm weak in this, you're strong in that. And what I can do to help you, you get a group together that can share and work out where I need this. Can you help me? That barter of time and labor and knowledge is the way it works. I say communities have worked for thousands of years outside of what we call civilization. They were people that had a real skill in X, a real talent in X. And they became the ones that did that for the community they were with, and everybody recognized them for that. Even for the ladies, that this lady just has a natural way with children. That's the way my wife is. She was in daycare for nearly 20 years. You could put her in a room with 15 3-year-olds. That was the age she loved. 3-year-olds, guys. 18 of them. And they're all having a great time and singing. Every one of them loves Miss Hope. They're just running around like it was the greatest. They'll line up and do what she says, and they just love her to death. Natural talent and ability. You put me in a room with 18 3-year-olds, forget it. But she walks in and it's a talent. It's her ability. And so if, in a community thing, I'm good at answering questions and fixing things and coming up with ways to doing it. I'm the thinking guy. Whereas she's the one, give her the kids. She'd be the one that could take care of the kids and give us the opportunity to raise crops, etc. That's something that's a real skill with her. Now let's see. Scrolling down. Caesar, good evening. Ryan, very true. Delton, good choice. The 50 cal is sufficient for just about everything on North American continent for hunting, even the big game, as long as you place your bullet. I mean, they took grizzly, they took elk, moose, muskox, polar bear with a 50 cal, as long as you placed the bullet right and you used a heavy bullet, a conical on them real big ones, but round ball on everything else. And so it can really work. I mean, I've shot rabbits with a 50 cal and I've shot 1,000-pound hogs with a 50 cal before too. So very, very versatile. Okay, Blackie, another question. How many gatherings do you do per year, just the spring, or do you do a fall gathering? We are looking forward to this gathering. I typically just do the spring gathering because here in the South, the fall is warm so late. Most years up into October, even the 1st of November, the days are still hitting 80s and 85s. And, by the time it cools off and have an enjoyable event, you're into the holiday season of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all like that. So I just do one in the spring. We did one year, and that was during COVID, where I canceled mine because they weren't allowed anybody to have gatherings. Congregations of people. I canceled it, and everybody begged me, Blackie, please, I got to get out of the house, come up. And so we had one in September, and my northern friends came down, were sweating like pigs and about to pass out. And of course, us down here in the South, we were going, well, this ain't too bad. It's only 90 degrees. That's 20 degrees cooler than it was 3 days ago. And of course our northern friends were used to 45 and 50 by then. They're about to melt. So yeah, I do just a spring gathering. Garrett Black, have you ever read the book Leviathan by Paul Stack? I don't think I have. I may have. I'm a pretty voracious reader, but it's not ringing a bell at the moment. Okay, John Hamilton, do you have a military rifle, AK or AR, and a pistol that you like? If you're going for pure accessories and availability, any AR platform, I would recommend it over the AK platform. The AK excels in reliability, no doubt. Everybody brags on how reliable an AK is. Absolutely. The ammunition is not as available, and it was coming out of Russia and Ukraine, and that's all dried up now. So it's going to get harder and harder to get ammo. Yes, we're loading it here, but the price is going up. 5.56 is a current produced, and 223 is current produced, and both those will fire in an AR platform. And so it's just a better bang for your buck. Plus, you can get a heavy barrel, heavy stock, and try to stretch it out 400 or 500 yards. On the other hand, you can put a short barrel, a short stock on it, make it for up close and personal, just whatever you want. And so I would recommend the AR platform as far as a handgun. If you have not had a lot of practice and training, a Glock. Glocks are great start out guns, great functioning and using guns because you take your finger off the trigger, it's safe. It's as safe as a 38 revolver. Put your finger on the trigger, pull, it goes bang. When you let go, it's safe again. You don't have to remember to flip anything or whatever. They're accurate, reliable, tons of clips, tons of parts available, and pretty robust design. So for that now, having said that, I took 1911s, and I'm a big fan of the Browning High Power. I guess you'd call it my combat gun is a CZ 75, 9 mil, and I took my 1911. So it just depends on the situation. I've had and built ARs, and I've built M14s for long range target work. I used to build custom rifles for long range, out to 1,000 yards competitions and stuff. And the AR will not hold up at long range, long being beyond 400 yards. Well, because if you ever see an AR platform fired under high speed camera, really high speed, the stock flexes this way, the receiver flexes this way, the barrel flexes this way. It looks like a snake wiggling because there's so many joints in that design. That's the reason it was never designed to be a real long range gun. And you can do a lot of stuff and stretch it out to a couple of 100 yards, 400, 500 maybe. But at that point, the bullet's hitchhiking. So for 0 to 300, which is 99% of everything you're ever going to do for that as a hunting weapon or whatever, stay within the lane it's designed for, 300 yards and less. And it's a great platform for that. Okay, that's my 2 cents worth. John Bentley, what are your 3 top online military surplus sites? I look more than anything at Sportsman's Guide because they get a better selection that pops into me. The other sites I don't follow like I used to. I have that surplus place down here near me that I go through about at least once a month and take a look if there's something. But I'm so gear heavy, dudes. I'm running out of places to put good gear. So, but Kaufman's Military Surplus in Sampson, Alabama is where I go to, and that and Sportsman's Guide are the 2 that I look at. And I'm amazed what pops up on Sportsman's Guide a lot of times, especially foreign military stuff. Now I'm betting whenever this Russian and Ukrainian war comes to an end, there's going to be a ton of stuff end up on the market. It just, you can see it because right now they're sucking up anything that's useful. And that and a lot of the Europeans. Whenever whatever finally comes to an end, you're going to see a huge dump of surplus. And there'll probably be a lot of good deals then. Oh, Caesar. Ooh, boy. That's a good question, Caesar. At one time, I was more up on what the rules were. But to be honest, I am not up on them, especially in Georgia, on what would be acceptable, you know, like that for some sort of self defense. And I wish I could give you more information. But I'll be honest with you, anything I would be saying would probably not be current. And so it'd be better just not to say anything because I really don't want to put you on a blind path and get you in trouble. Tarps that go on billboards are huge canvas tarps, sign companies, billboards. Right. That's an idea, Ryan, because a lot of times they take those down whenever they're changing. That'd be something to use. I remember at PetSmart, they put these huge banners up on top of the building for the coming promotion, or whatever. They huge magnets up there that click to the steel beams, and you'd have a 8 foot wide, 20 foot long, one side of the store or the other, big banner talking about some dog food or whatever. And they change them out every 3 or 4 months and throw them away. And that was a really well made tarp. And I gave one of those tarps to a friend of mine. He'd come out and he'd set it up like a wall tent. He'd just stake down, come up over a frame, pull out the sides. So it's like, like that, like a boat out A frame. And he just put a front door and back door. So he had this dog food thing. I think we called it the dog food tent, but it was a really nice, heavy tarp and worked really well. Ted Fisher, good evening. Check this out. Blackie, what do you prefer today nowadays, a kukri or a tomahawk? Kukri. I love my tomahawk, but my kukri is my first choice. I can draw knife with it. I can split wood with it. I can chop like a hatchet with it. I can use it to dig. I can use it as a froe to split things off. I can use it as a splitting wedge. It's just got so many uses. It is by far the most versatile tool I've ever had in the field. Washburn Billy, you're correct. Get some extra boots and go ahead and break them in. Right now, you're not doing a lot of walking. When you do have to do a lot of walking, you're going to be amazed how poor your shoes are. Oh, wow. A $800 336. Holy cow. I remember we were selling 336s at Walmart for $325 for a standard 336. Garen, that is something. An air gun, maybe, for Caesar. Maybe. Again, I don't know what the current rules and regs are. Edgar, no, you cannot. You cannot mix smokeless powder in with black powder if you mix it with something inert like cornmeal. It's still way too volatile. What it is the gas expansion of smokeless is so much more violent than black powder. The power is the same, but it's how it gets there. And the visualization I give you is this: the light turns green, car A pulls off at a leisurely pace, car B smokes the tires like crazy and hauls butt, and they both stop at the next stoplight a half a block away. That's what it is. The smokeless powder is that one popping the wheels and smoking like crazy. The pressure just shoots straight up so fast that it doesn't have time. And the smokeless gun is the black powder gun is designed for such bulk charges that it could. Now, the only gun that I've ever heard of that they admitted they shot smokeless powder in was the Ruger Old Army. In the literature of Ruger, he talked about that the proof load was red dot, which was an incredibly powerful powder that they would put like 3 grains into a 357 cartridge, and they filled the chambers up with it and shot it, and it didn't come apart. That is just insane pressure. But that's the only gun I've ever heard of they admitted that they would do that. And for most of the black powder guns, it was just simply unhardened steel. It was a type of ordnance steel. They just milled a machine. There was no heat treat to it. And that's the reason you go back in history a little bit and they talk about how old Smith & Wessons, don't shoot plus P ammo, because up till 1930, Smith & Wessons, even though it's a Smith & Wesson Model 1038, didn't have a heat-treated cylinder. And so modern smokeless powder is stressing it a little bit, even though it says it's a 38 special. And so that's one of the things about it. You cannot mix them. It gets to be too big of a risk, because it'll take it, and then it's a grenade. So Forrest Witch went camping in a rainstorm last weekend. Stayed dry thanks to your tips on hammock camping. Glad to do it. Glad to do it. Dave Forrester. Hello, sir. Doing well. Geico 75. Glad you're in here. Tiny Titan. Good evening. Glad you made it. I hear you. Gordon, no problem. Go Brawl, what's the average effective range of an air rifle and 17 break barrel? About 15, 20 yards, if you're talking about a small game. Now, you can hit targets much further out. I used to have one I'd shoot out 60 yards and hit Coke cans and stuff. But actually, real world practical, about 20 yards is about what you're really looking at for small game. It's not that it doesn't have power, but that groups start getting bigger to where you can't place your shots as well. And so the 17's out something like, which is perfectly adequate for most small game when you're just walking around and looking. There's a rabbit, there's a squirrel, there's a bird, there's whatever. You can feed yourself quite well with them. Us kids in the neighborhood did really good with an old Daisy Red Ryder, and that was a 350 feet per second. Not like the 1,1400 feet today of a pellet gun like that, or even 2,000 in some of them. And we learned you thump that chipmunk in the skull, or you thump that bird, or you thump that squirrel and stun them and knock them out, and you walk them up and pick up and wring their neck. So we could, more than once, I brought home squirrels and starlings to my granny, and we cleaned them on the back porch when I was little. Rob Slagle, good evening. Rob, are you coming to the camp out next weekend? Oh, Muhammad, hello from the desert. Muhammad, I would be happy to, but I do not have much experience in the desert. In my past businesses where I worked with military contractors, I went out into the deserts of America, but I am not a desert person. And there would be far more knowledgeable people like Cody Lundeen. Cody Lundeen lives in Arizona and stuff in the deserts, which are similar to your Egyptian deserts, and is a much more knowledgeable source for that. Sorry, I just don't live there. But thank you very much for watching and supporting my channel. Garen, you are correct. Until we got repeating guns, bow and arrow was better than a muzzleloader. You could get more arrows in the air. They talked about a Cheyenne one time they saw that was charging, and he was on horseback, and he put 6 arrows in the air from 150 yards out. And so the guy not only had to worry about as he got closer, he's having to worry about the arrows that have already been launched and are now just arriving. And so he couldn't take good aim on the Indian because he's having to duck all these arrows that are coming at him. And the guy's getting closer the whole time. And eventually he scored. So they can shoot in a hurry. Somebody that go look at some of the stuff that's coming out of Europe where you see that guy just flipping and wonk, wonk, wonk. Impressive. That would be very effective at close range. Edgar, one of them little short machetes. I have friends of mine that carried a short machete in Vietnam, would break off an issue machete and just regrind it and make it into something about that long. 12 to 18-inch machete. A lot of them carried them crossways the top of the Atlas with the handle right here. They could snatch it out for a close range combat weapon and use it for all the things they had to do in a jungle. So yeah, they can be very effective. Joe Hippo, can you suggest a brand and possibly model for pants? I like my old military surplus pants because they're set up already with double knees, double butts on it, double layers. So they're more durable in the field and don't wear out near as easily. Second, I normally buy them for $10 or less a pair because they're old military surplus uniforms being turned in. As far as a modern things, Carhartt work pants are really good. Tractor Supply's got their version, which is very similar. I like a good durable canvas duck pant for field pants because you're getting down on your knees, you're sitting down, etc. Every little stick or whatever doesn't poke through them, doesn't wear a hole in the knees or etc. And the pockets don't wear out. That's one thing that a lot of people don't get. I've had several pair of pants. Man, they're just fantastic. But the pocket material, the liner in the pocket would wear out in almost no time, and you couldn't put anything in the pocket because it fell out. And so, or the belt loops would let go. So I like Carhartt work pants, and look a lot of times at Sportsman's Guide, especially this time of the year. And you're going to see these pants coming out of Europe that were set up for the militaries. They got waterproof knees, waterproof seats on them, etc. And look a lot like these fancy $150 bushcraft pants, but it'd be $30. I bought a couple of pair of them that came out of Switzerland. They were $30 a piece and were good, heavy, dead of the winter pants. Really nice and got good bottoms in it. Good evening, Bad Hat. How much rope do you think a person should carry? Okay, if we're talking an actual rope, like, pinky size rope, about 100 feet will do just about anything you want. Now, I normally don't carry that. Now, if you're talking about like paracord and lines, I carry, if you put it all together, I'd probably have 100 feet or more of lines, but that's going to be in bushcraft zip ties, varying in length from that long up to like 3 or 4 feet long because I made them up from odd pieces. And then I will usually carry soft shackles and stuff like that could be stretched out and hooked together. I carry a 30-foot ridge line already set up, which is a quick deploy ridge line. And so I'm carrying somewhere around 100 feet of cord in various configurations. I don't like carrying the big hank of rope unless I need it. Okay, that's one of the specialty tools to me, like carrying an axe, carrying a shovel, carrying a big hank of rope, because I need it for whatever project I'm doing. If I'm just wanting a long piece for strength, I'll carry a big hunk of mule tape because it's more compact, higher breaking strength, and works better for most of it. But again, it's one of those specialty tools that I need it, I bring it. Otherwise, I'm not needing it. But my daily carry in my haversack, look how bulged out my top flap is on my haversack. It's because I carry about 100 feet of cord in various configurations in there. Garen, do I remember the Case astronaut's knife? Yes, that rounded end short machete. Yeah, white handle. Oh yeah, Edgar, I've watched a lot of that stuff. Washburn Billy, exactly. The knowledge of how to do it, and then what's the tool? What's the strength and the weakness of this tool? Um, the best information I ever saw somebody do, and it was a guy that was in a U.S. Army engineering, and he had the green recruits in, and he gave them old shovels, and he told them he wanted them to move these boulders. Well, these boulders weighed 300 and 400 pounds each with shovel. Pried over, run it on, and drag it, and etc. Well, they broke every one of them shovels. They were meant to. These were shovels they were going to throw away that were bad anyway. And then he later gave them machetes that had problems and let them break and tear up. And they figure out, yeah, this will break, because most people never wear out or break a tool. They don't have the ability, and they don't have the depth of time with it to figure that out. So to them, a hammer is indestructible. They don't realize that it's not. That a shovel is indestructible. It is not. But once you tear a couple up, you'll figure it out. And then when he handed them a new one, they were much more careful, because they realized this thing can break. And so a lot of times it's the tool. What can we do with the tool, and how's the tool working? Better yet, how can I avoid damaging this tool? Briar, have you ever thought about doing a blackbird kukri? Actually, William Collins did, and he came up with this big old huge kukri, and it just didn't work out. I have, and in fact, I've been approached by some people from one of the Nepal that made my kukri, and said that they'd be willing to make a kukri to my specifications if I wanted to do it. I just haven't got around to that yet, because that's going to be something. I'm real particular about my quality control on a kukri, and so we're going to have to just see how that works. But yeah, I have thought of it. But like I said, and I've done whole videos on how to find kukris and stuff like that. But yeah, I have thought of it. Yep. Sportsmobile, the right billboard material makes fantastic tarps. There are several weights and some of the things. If you're near some place where they're building houses, Tyvek, that stuff they put on the side of a house for a vapor barrier, makes a decent tarp. It's kind of noisy, but it actually does, especially once it gets broken a little bit, it makes a pretty good tarp. And I've known several guys that have gone in together to go buy a section of it and cut it up and make tarps out of it. So it can make a pretty good tarp as well. Washburn Billy, is bank line like Power Pro? Bank line you will find around your fishing equipment. It's a tarred bank line. It's a line that is black. I don't think I have any in reach. But I do. Okay, it's a nylon cord, and it's kind of stiff, and it's kind of sticky, and it's actually got tar on it. Okay, it doesn't rot well, and it's the strength of the nylon we want. But the problem with that nylon cord is it's so slick, you can tie a knot and just wiggle it and it just falls apart. It's so slick, it just slides like it's greased. The tar keeps it from sliding, and so you can use it in the fishing, making nets, drop lines, fish hooks, whatever. It's used in the net industry for fishing. And so just look in fishing accessories and look for tarred, Tarred, bank line. That's what you want. It comes in different weights as well. Slick tape or mule tape is awesome. They're fantastic for the weight and power of them. They're really good. Would you repel a shear face? Would I rappel down a shear face with a paracord if you knew it was good stuff? Yes. Yeah. Double the line, to be on belay, and you're over 1,000 pounds of braking strength. It doubled. And Blackie don't weigh nearly that much. And just realize this cord cannot take. Make sure the top edge is not going to saw as you go down. So you're sawing on a rock face or something, it'll hold the weight. And I have rappelled down 80 feet down a steep face with a double over piece of 550 paracord, actual military issue 550 paracord before. Because we had somebody at the bottom and I had to get down there to them. They were hurt. And that's all I had. And so I was able to do it with that. But yeah, it can do it. Would I automatically pick it? No. But could it do it? Yes. So Jeff, Bad Hat, you're welcome. Jeff, do you know where you can still get the tube webbing? I do not. It seemed to have dried up a little bit. It was very popular for several years, and then it's kind of dried up. I haven't seen actual tube webbing in a while, so hope they still make it, or maybe they just changed the industry or something. Washburn Billy, that's what we're here for. Ask questions. Woo! Mike Bolton, Sportsman's Guide has M65 jackets with liner on sale for $89 right now. That's a good deal. Mohammed, excuse me, do you recommend an earthquake survival kit, especially in an urban area? Yes, definitely. If you're in a large building complex, you need to have a survival kit. You need to have a survival kit in the trunk of your vehicle so that if you're outside with the vehicle or outside your building and the building collapses, you've got supplies. Some, at least 3 days worth of supplies. In your home, you need at least a week's worth of supplies of food, etc. And find the most secure place in your home where you've got the most walls around you to give you the most protection if things start to collapse around you, to put you into a pocket. So yes, have a survival kit for at least a week's worth of food and water for everyone involved. Now also in there, consider medicine. If you have yourself or a family member that needs and requires this medicine, make sure that some of it is in that kit. Yes, I know you've got it in the other part of the house, but have it with the kit. And if you feel an earthquake, you come to where the kit is in the most secure place in your home or apartment and ride it out there. You know, that's the best way to do it, to be secure. We here in the South, we do not have earthquakes. We have hurricanes, typhoons. I think you call them in your side of the world. And that kind of storm, the building can collapse around you in a severe storm. So we have a similar survival kit in a central place in our home that we can get to ride out that kind of endeavor. So yes, have an emergency kit definitely in your car there. And if you have a business where you have an office or something, have a small one, at least 2 days worth of stuff for you at your work, if possible. Just my 2 cents. Where'd I go? Oh, there we go. Okay. Garen, have you ever handled one of those K-Tech kukris from Condor? I have. Joe Flowers had one. Joe Flowers is big with Condor. And it seemed okay. It seemed well made. I haven't done a lot with other than just handling it at an event, but I think it'd be pretty decent. Sportsmobile 83, 100 feet of slick tape or mule tape. Yeah. If I was going to be going cross country, I would definitely be carrying at least 150, maybe 200 feet, depending, of mule tape. Because I can coil that up relatively small. It doesn't weigh nothing. But for the power and strength of it, especially if I'm having to, with a group of people, ferry across some sort of creek, river, which is very prominent down here in my area, being able to sling a tight line and hook packs on it with a carabiner and slide it across. So you ain't got to carry it through the water, and big advantage for getting from A to B in a hurry. Fernando, hello from Cloud, Florida. The road is fine for that. Now, it is what we call an all-weather dirt road, which means it's a mix of sand and red clay. So cars, small regular cars, get in and out fine. People tow little trailers in all the time to that lake. People tow boats into that lake. So you should have no problem. Now, of course, if it's rutted, keep up on the right place. But you should have no problem getting in. Carl Pasco, my buddy who walked the Appalachian Trail used a piece of Tyvek for his ground cloth. Yeah, a lot of guys did for quite a while. That was the thing to have in a lot of the ultralights. They went to the Tyveks because it was cheaper and it was very light and very durable. Noisy, yeah. I've heard it said he used to lay down and just fold it in half like a taco instead of setting it up like a tarp. He'd fold it, lay it out flat, put his sleeping gear down, and just throw it over the top of him. And he said you'd have a rainstorm, and it was like being inside of a snare drum, on that material. So, but other than that, it's good stuff. Gordon, I went to Walmart and bought a 6x8 standard tarp and some bank line, paracord, and a hammock. Any tips to cut down on bulk? Yeah. Set up your hammock and find out exactly how long a tarp you need to cover it. Okay. So let us say that this hammock is 10 feet from end to end, and I want 12 feet. I want a foot on either end overhang. So the tarp needs to be 12 foot to cover a 10-foot tarp and have a little bit of a safety margin on the ends, right? As far as the line, the bank line, etc., like I showed you where I did that hunk, I make donuts of it, and I'll take like 100 feet of bank line, and I'll sit and make a donut and carry that in the field rather than the whole roll, unless I'm doing some sort of project where I'm going to need that much. That is more than sufficient for me to carry. In fact, that's what's left out of a roll, and I put a new roll into my haversack because I had cut off quite a bit making something, and that got down short, so I just turned it into this hank. So just cut down your hanks, things like that. Go ahead and make up some bushcraft zip ties of varying lengths, and I've got videos on that you can find. Make you up a couple of soft shackles and make you up your ridge line, and then just plug in other paracord or whatever as you need it. And you'll end up with a set of what covers 90% of what you're doing. So you're not always having to reinvent the wheel every time. I ain't got to cut and make ties for everything. I've got reusable stuff, and all your paracord is going to be reusable. So I'm going to take that bushcraft zip tie, and I'm going to go through the strap of my pack, go around the tree, tie it, zip, and it's going to hold up my pack. When I'm done, I pull the unlock knot, I take it off and put it back in the pack. I don't get rid of my paracord. My bank line is my sacrificable. I use it to tie up stuff I'm not going to retrieve, or I don't have to retrieve. Like if I'm going to make a tripod right quick, I put 3 sticks the right size, grab me a bushcraft zip tie, go around 3 times, go through, pull it tight, zip, open it up. I want to make a tripod and leave it at this campsite so I can use it next time. I'll use bank line for that then. So when I pull it tight, I ain't going to cut and come back. I'm just going to stand it up against a tree. It's not going to rot. It'll be there when I come back. Diane, when buying hiking boots, is it good to go one size up? Absolutely. One of the major problems that people don't realize is your feet swell, especially when you're standing for a long amount of time. The blood, everything builds up in the feet. The feet just swell up. And so I wear, for example, I should wear a size 9. I get a size 10 boot because I'm going to wear heavy, thick socks for hiking and carry extra socks. And when your feet start feeling tired and etc., realize that you probably, through sweat and exertion, have compressed the padding on the bottom of that sock between that and the boot. And if I just stop and change socks, suddenly my feet feel better because I'm putting some padding in there. And what's happening is when that padding is compressed, all I got is the meat on the bottom of the foot. An uncovered foot walking that flexes, our feet are inside of like a mold, which is that shoe, and it's just going straight up and straight down. And so it compresses the tissues in here and cuts down on circulation, and our feet start hurting. But if I'll just simply change to a thick sock, suddenly the circulation comes back because now there's some flex every time I walk. So that sock is now allowing the flex. So I found that's the secret to surviving and long hiking and stuff is carry a lot of extra socks. Ted Fisher, Sergeant Knott's, and that's all in capital letter, website has 1-inch tubular webbing for anybody that's looking for it. Thanks for posting that. Washburn Billy, we all learn. You know, there is no, I am I'm the biggest student here, guys. I am learning every day, and I am amazed and delighted sometimes by people that are just rank amateurs. This is their first attempt, and they'll show me a trick I had never thought of. You know, it's always about learning. Never stop learning, and always be willing to learn. And I've had people that say, I want to show you how to do this. And I've got 20 years experience of what they're talking about. Sure, show me. Because sometimes they'll show you something how not to do it as well. Ooh, I never thought about that mistake before. On the other hand, it might be a new trick you just hadn't seen before. And so always be willing to learn. I know I am. I'll learn from anybody. Edgar, do you think building codes are written so homes aren't very defensible? In certain ways, yeah, they're designed for looks, not for actual security. If you'll go back and look at some of the original houses from back in the day, they've moved it now, but up here in Georgia, near um, Columbus, Georgia, was a place called Westville, and someone had gone around and collected old houses and buildings from the 1800s, late 1700s. The newest building in the compound was 1851. So 1850 was the target date. Nothing past 1850. And so they had stuff in the 1700s, except they collected from all over the South. And the number one thing that got you when you walked into, a lot of times the walls were that thick and solid because they were fighting Indians. You had to be able to stand gunfire through walls and stuff like that. And so you look at how thick the doors were, how thick the floors were, how etc. They were setting up for a different time period. And then you look at the modern houses, these little bitty thin walls and everything else. It's where you hear about somebody, a gun gets discharged and it goes through 3 houses before it stops because it's all cardboard houses. Miss Pam, on your kit, if you have medication, make sure to change it out and keep it fresh. Exactly. Always in the bottle you're putting it into. Always take a piece of masking tape or whatever and put a date on it. The date you plan on getting rid of it. So I, for example, in my bags and stuff, my vehicles, it's 6 months I rotate. Okay, so I'm coming up now where I should rotate for my spring because last October is when I rotated to the fall. So now I should 1st April I'll rotate to my spring and summer set. And on it I put down spring da 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 da, and that way I know. So I don't quit. Did I change that out last time? Not always. That comes to the house and goes in back into the medicine bottle for the heart medication or etc. And then the new stuff goes in there. And so that's always current in case that's all I've got. Uh, Blackie, what's your take on genuine M65s versus the reproductions like Helicon, etc.? The modern reproductions are not bad choices. Were the original ones better in some degrees? Yes. But finding an original in your size is harder and harder and harder. They were the junk jackets. That's the reason I talked about. I got mine for nothing back in the day because everybody that came home from war or came home from Vietnam or whatever had a field jacket and they threw it into the garage sale or whatever. They were everywhere. And now they're not anymore. So you're talking about a jacket that was 50 plus years ago was current issue. Yeah, they issued it up through the 90s, but still, like maybe even early 2000s, but it's still 20 years out of date. And so look at a lot of the reproductions. I think you'd be happy with them. You know, you may need little TLC here or there, but I think you'd be better off. If you can't find one and sit there and go through it and really look at it, one of the modern reproductions would probably be a good choice. As long as it's something that's a reasonable price. Some of these guys are ridiculous. Washburn Billy, yeah, it is kind of funny, ain't it? How they mandate you got to have hollow walls, and hollow walls is the worst thing because if a fire gets started in the wall, it's a chimney. It just runs up. So, Cheddar, thank you very much. Everything Black Powder. Hey, Blackie, I tried your gun butter the other day in an old beater 58 Remington, and it beat the snot out of my homemade beeswax and tallow. I have a video of it coming out soon. Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, just a minute. Yeah. Everything Black Powder. Thank you very much. We worked on that for 2 years to get that. And 11 Bang Bang did it where he shot his 58 and then didn't clean it for a month. And it didn't rust, and he could still spin the cylinder. It didn't gum up. I have shot my Dragoon with it with the full loads. Think how fouling up a full loaded Dragoon is. And shot it and kept it out on the deck where I could keep an eye on it. And after 2 weeks, it hadn't rusted and it was still turning. You know, I just cleaned it out a little bit, wiped out any fouling, re-greased it with it, and put it back in the gun case. It has not been cleaned now in a month, and I check it every other day just to make sure. And I have seen no surface rust form on that thing. You know, there are so many components of that Miss Lita is a genius at being a chemist. She's coming out of the soap and the hand stuff type deal. And when she and I got together and got talking about it, and the tallow and stuff worked back in the day, that's what they had. This is all natural stuff, but it works so much better. And I am very happy with it. So, and now that we've got the bullet butter for dip lubing your conicals and stuff, and I did a quick video on that, and she's got several orders for that. You know, I hope to do more of that pretty soon. Once I get caught up with all this stuff, I want to go spend a week at the range and do nothing but shoot. But life, you know. Mitch, Blackie, would you spend $800 on a good fixed blade knife? Okay. Most of my life, I would have said no. Okay. And let me qualify that. And this is what I do. A lot of people look at my WC knives. Oh my God, that's a $300 knife. And with the sheath, that's like $500. I can't do that. I understand that. Foam. Okay. Most of them that are watching my videos, that foam cost a hell of a lot more than that knife. I got people walking around, friends of mine, that are walking around with $1,000 cell phones in their pocket. Oh, I didn't pay that. Yeah, you did. It's in payments. But yeah, you did. You just didn't pay it all at once. But why did you want $1,000 cell phone? Well, it's got all these features and it does this really fast, and the camera on it's really good, and da 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 da. You have the ability, the skill, and the knowledge to make that phone perform that way. And so that $1,000 is worth it to you for what that phone brings to the table, right? This is a $75 Walmart phone. I need it to send a text, do a phone call, take a picture, take a little video. That's it. Blackie don't have any of them apps. In fact, whenever we were setting it up, I told her, I said, let me see the list of all the apps. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Don't need games, don't need this. And I eliminated half the apps on that thing when I got it because I don't need any of that. To me, $75 is enough to pay for a phone. But I do so much in woodscraft with a knife. I wanted a really good knife. So would I pay $800 for a knife? If it was a knife that gave me the features I needed, the quality I needed, the durability I needed, and I could justify to my mind that that would be what I really need, yes, I could pay that. Would I ever pay $1,000 for a phone? No. Got no use for a phone with all that. That's a tricorder. You know, I use a home computer is what I do all my editing and my stuff for my videos on. I don't need no dang little phone. And so it's what you're needing, and is it got the features, all the above, and it's price you think is reasonable. Go for it. Yeah. You know, but I tell you what, it had to be I'm loyal to them WC knives. This is going to be my knife probably for the rest of my life. And I've had some other big name players have wanted to give me a knife. Would I be willing to do it? And I told them, so I'm more than happy to give you a review on it. But I'm telling you, this is my knife. This knife, this Blackbird, this Master Woodsman prototype, and all I have from WC Collins, that's my knife. And that's going to be my knife for the rest of my life. It does everything that I want in a knife. Oh, Worm Wrangler, the M65s don't have the flared cuffs, the reproductions that the real ones did. Okay, that could be something, especially if you're up in cold country and you're gonna have to. They did that because in big old gloves they had to wear in cold conditions, being able to take the jacket on and off without having to take your gloves off. Jay Baker, wear thick socks to try on shoes when buying. Yes. And here's another thing. Go try on shoes after work after you've worked an 8-hour day standing on your feet. Your feet are swollen as big as they're going to get. Don't go on the day off whenever your feet haven't swollen, because then whenever you do wear them and your feet swell, they're too tight. Always go when your feet are swollen up at the maximum. So it's after work, after a long day, then go try them on. Or buy them, try them on. If they're too tight, take them right back, get the next size up. Caesar, he's correct. Now, he should have waited and read it myself. Jeff, yes. A lot of times, if I'm going to be hiking long range, I'd put those thin nylon dress socks underneath and then put the heavy wool sock on top. And they'll slide together and makes life a whole lot better. Cheddar Pepper Prepper. My oldest sister Lynn told me to make sure to wear boots during a tornado instead of tennis shoes because of the potential of broken glass, nails, etc. Yeah, footwear. It's always a good idea wherever your secure area is to have some sort of shield, something you can put over you, a heavy quilt. I tell people to, if you ain't got nothing else, go get a couple of those packing blankets like you pick up at Harbor Freight for $7 a piece. Something you can throw over you for the shrapnel, a little shards of glass and stuff that's just flying everywhere. So if the roof does go off the building, the door gets sucked out or whatever, as long as it hadn't got you, it gives something to catch those little shards and stuff and give you a little bit of a barrier, something I can hold up in front of me. Gordon, I'm thinking about changing out the nipples on my 51 Navy. I'm having to use nipple pick between reloads. Is that normal? No, it's not. Probably your flash hole inside the nipple has got wallered out and it's gumming up. That when it's firing, there's that fouling is actually plugging it up. The orifice in there should be so tiny that the flash goes through, but the back pressure can't push too hard coming back out. If them openings are too big, and sadly since COVID, a lot of the Italian replicas coming in have had too big a opening in them. In fact, the pocket Navy I got, I couldn't almost every other shot was a cap jam, even with mile loads, because the openings were so big inside the nipple that when you fired it would just blow debris and stuff right back and pulverize the cap, and it jammed everywhere. So yes, I would recommend in that case. They used to call them fouled out nipples. I would go get another set of nipples for it. Just go start out with just stock nipples and not invest, because a stock set of nipples is like $10. And if you're not having horrible cap jams, use that and save the money on them $49 sets of slick shots and stuff. Feel good. In a house today built in 1860s, and the walls were 18 to 24 inches thick, stucco over brick. Yeah, that's how they insulated their houses. People, modern times don't get. You'd go in and you could actually a lot of times look and see gaps between the floorboards. That was intentional, because in the summer heat, you open the windows in the top of the house and the hot air would rise and that big old roof would generate the heat and it would flow out. Well, that would suck cool air up from underneath the house through the floor up into the house. Now in the winter, they would close those off and they would seal up the floor with something like rugs or tarps or whatever. I've even heard of people bringing dirt in the winter and covering the floor in dirt to plug up the air leaks and then uncovering it in the spring. So big thick walls insulated them. And that was one of the things that was real shocking, because when we went to the one in Westville that had all these old antique buildings, and it's August and it's 105 degrees, and you'd walk into this building, there is no air conditioning, and it was 15 degrees cooler. It felt like air conditioning walking in because of its sucking. They knew what they were doing back in them days. They knew how to try to cool the place off. Damn sharp knives, tops knives at 300, pretty much the limit, and that's perfectly adequate. You know, it is what you're comfortable with. Um, Price does not guarantee um, any kind of skill comes with a knife. It just shows where it should mean higher quality or whatever. And if you've got the skills or ability, yeah, maybe it's worth it. But I got my collection right up there, more knives. You know, my first bushcraft knife was a Moore knife I wore around my neck. You see my earliest videos, and I still got it, and I still use it. It's still a damn fine knife to carry to the field for use as a bush knife. You know, the Condor knives, $50, $60, are a decent knife. No, they're not super uber, but they're decent, serviceable, and would have no problem carrying one. So it doesn't have to be a high dollar, but I do require it to be good quality. Gordon, I use Pirate XP. Could the powder be the problem? I used Pirate XP almost exclusively for many years, and I didn't have that problem with it. But like I said, once the nipples got too wore out, they would plug up easily. And I had one gun that if I fired paper cartridges, you had to clear out the nipples every time. You had to use a pick, because it would just like suck a piece of paper in and plug it up every time. And so it just depends on the gun and how well it does it. But I kind of like Pirate XP. I shoot it so much. You know, I've got a lot of black powder right now, but most time my go-to is Pirate XP. And so it works fairly well for me. Force Switch. Is there a way to make an Army issue wool blanket waterproof? I'd like to make a coat out of one. Yes. Go look up WC Knives, William Collins, and he shows you how he took a sheet and used silicone and mineral spirits to waterproof it and turned a sheet into a tarp that would bead water. A blanket, a wool blanket would do the same thing. Now, down the line, I don't know how it's going to do in the long run because that is wool. It's a wool blend, but it's wool. And so I know it will waterproof it. I know that it would bead water. The question is, will it affect its ability to be warm? Because what makes wool warm is the pockets of air. And by this stuff on it, would that make it warmer or less warm? I don't know. But I know you could waterproof it. I've seen M65 field jackets waterproof to the point that they'll bead water like a raincoat because they'd use silicone spray and turn them into a raincoat. I've known several active duty military that did that with a field coat just for that. Sportsman 83. Back in the 1980s, I went to a friend's house and got hit by a tornado. And there were pine needles that came through the walls and were sticking through the sheetrock. Yeah, I've seen that several times. My stepmother in 1970s, we had a hurricane coming through, talking about what wind can do. And she had tried to leave the place that she was at because the windows had blown out and she's got to take refuge somewhere else. So she ran out to get in her car to go to this second place. And as she's getting to the car, she's opened the car door, something slapped her in the chest. And it was the end of a pine limb, just the very, very end of it, handful of needles. And it slapped her like you walked up and went, pow, it hit her hard. Well, after the storm was over, hours and hours later, her left breast was so tender and she thought it stuck her. It actually hit her so hard it stuck her. 2-3 days after the event, her left breast had swollen up to almost double the size. And when she went into the ER, they found a pine needle almost all the way through her breast where that needle had gone straight through and broke off. So she had a pine needle through her breast. They had to go in and dig it out. So yeah, with wind, them pine needles are darts. I have been sandblasted by a tornado. I've been blown off my feet by a tornado. I was at place in Tennessee, Bledsoe, when we had 7 tornadoes basically form on top of us that night. We had an F3 form right within 300 or 400 yards of me. It was a big living history event, Southeastern Rendezvous. They formed up on top of that ridge, that mountain we're at, and they dropped down the valley. They tore that town up bad. But we had a couple of thousand people in canvas tents at a living history event. And yeah, it was pretty bad. I was in West Texas and it was West Kansas, I'm sorry. And I saw a big tornado coming. And I ran just as hard as that truck would run, and there was a little bitty bridge. There's nothing out here that's flat for miles as far as you can see, but I could see a little divot, and it's where the power lines and stuff go up and over a little bit. And it's a man-made irrigation ditch to let water out of one field into another. And it's a little bridge, and a woman that was in a car behind me was trying to keep up with me, and I got up there and jumped out of the truck, and we got under that bridge, and we wrapped around a pylon down there, and the sand cut the t-shirt off my back of my neck, and all the way down to my blue jean belt. I was sandblasted from that sand for a couple of years. After that, you could rub real hard in the skin, and I'd get sand that was embedded in my skin. That's what a tornado can do. It's something to see. Rob, I don't recall. I had asked him, and I think he said he was, but I have not asked him recently. I will ask. But I know as busy as he is, and it's like 14, 15-hour drive. But I hope he does. I enjoy spending some more time with him. I went and camped with him back in January. Dave Foster, in all your experience using ponchos for rain cover and shelter, do you think people exaggerate the inconvenience of having no rain cover when your shelter's up? As long as you don't mind getting wet. If it's warm enough, I don't mind because I know I can dry off once I get into my bed or whatever, get to my bed. But usually I would carry a little bitty small poncho or something I could wrap around in inclement weather and use the actual, you know, army poncho as the tarp. I would carry something small in addition, even a plastic bag, like a garbage bag, could be ripped and wrapped around the shoulders to try to limit some of the rain. But yeah, some people over exaggerate it. If it's going to rain, get underneath the shelter. If you mind getting wet, no. Yeah, damn sharp knives. I think wool likes to breathe. If you seal it up, they get cold. And he's got a point. I don't know how it's going to affect it. Could I waterproof it? Yes, but very few raincoats are warm. You know. Peter, Blackie, is air the best insulator for heat and cold like a thermos? As long as it's dead, still air that is not allowed to circulate, yes. It's a very good insulator. Or it will convey cold or heat very slowly to a target. As long as it doesn't have a circulation. If it's got a circulation, it's not a very good insulator. Then it's rapidly doing it. And so that's the reason that those thermoses and stuff were actually in a vacuum. There's a space in there, but it's a vacuum, so there's no air to circulate, and that's how they kept that kind of insulating ability. If you broke it, it was just air, but actually it sucked air out of it. N4THN grew up not too far in Opp, Alabama. Remember Hurricane Opal? I remember Opal as well. Good friend of mine, Grouch, over in Andalusia. We remember when Conecuh National Forest, they had 300 truckloads of timber coming out of Conecuh National Forest for 8 months because of Opal. That many trees were down. Yeah, Opal was pretty intense. Gordon, is there a brand of nipple you would recommend? I like the Trescos. If you'll go to Taylor and Company, they got a parts, and you can get Tresco nipples. I prefer them personally over slick shots. And so they're very durable, bronzish type material. They don't batter very easily, and they seem to just last forever. And so I just like Trescos. If I'm going to spend money for a fancy nipple set, it'll be Trescos. Yeah, Jeff Conley. After Hurricane Andrew, I saw a 2x4 through a concrete light post. It will give you respect. Exactly. When we had that F5 tornado hit Enterprise, Alabama, in 2007, a place on College Street where House A blew apart in that tornado. The slung debris from it. They were in House B, and the 2x4s were blowing through 2 and 3 walls before they stopped. The man and woman living there were in the far side of the house on the floor. And there's a video that they took and they posted on Facebook where when it finally went over, they went in there and they showed it it's like that. All you see is like 20, 30, 40 2x4s in the hall, and they had gone completely through 3 walls before they stopped in the hallway. So yeah, it's javelins at that point. The only thing you can do is get underground. It just tears up everything. Edgar, buy the land for your bug out spot or just pick one. Buy it is preferred, or know somebody who owns it that is understanding and you got a deal with them. Gulf Coast Pine, where is the event this weekend? Is everyone invited or closed gathering? I don't know about the event this weekend, and the Bushcraft Base Camp is in South Carolina. Roger and Ruben stopped by yesterday. They're heading up to it. But my event is next week. It starts next Wednesday, Thursday, and goes through Saturday, the 23rd through the 26th. And it's at Geneva State Forest, not Geneva County, Geneva State Forest. It's between Sampson and Opp, Alabama. It's at the lake. It's open to anybody that wants to come camp out, and it's $2 a day to camp. And you just got a drop box up there that you put your money in an envelope and drop it in. Bring you a little bit of firewood. We're trying to get firewood delivered to the camp, and bring you water, or have the ability to filter water from the lake. There will be a porta potty, no showers. Silverwing, do you have any tips for digging tunnels? Shore it up and reinforce it a lot. I have very limited experience in digging such tunnels. I dug a hogan one time into a red clay bank, made basically a cabin in the ground, and reinforced it. That's about my extent of it. Having said that, I had family members that were coal miners, and they knew a whole lot more than me about how to dig and tunnel. But not a big thing we do down here in my part of the South, as far as us personally. Good night, Washburn Billy. Yeah, we're getting close to time too, ain't it? Dave Foster, correct. And hurricanes, whatever, tie everything, anchor everything down you can, because it's amazing what something small, how much damage it can do. We were that one I told you about with those tornadoes, that formed on top of us up there at Bledsoe. After it was over, my friend who had a tent next to me, we found one of his tent poles for his outside awning, and it had a fork buried all the way where the tines were sticking out the other side. So he had picked a fork off of a table somewhere and harpooned it through a 2x2, a hardened oak 2x2. So yeah, it's amazing what little bitty things can become so dangerous. Elvin, can you post information on the surplus store you visiting on the gathering? I would like to order online. Yes, I will, but write this down. Kaufman's, Kaufman's, Kaufman's Military Surplus, Sampson, Samson, Alabama. Phone number 334-898-1770. Tell them I sent you. They'll hand select anything you ask for. If they've got it, they'll go get it, and they'll pick you the best one by hand and send it to you. Just tell them that Blackie sent me, and they'll hand select for you. And it's better just to call them. They've got an online thing, but it's not as call them. Talk to the ladies down there and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll go look right then and let you know. Edgar, that's the thing. You go build this elaborate thing and everybody can find it. Uh, it's one of them things. You got to be flexible. You got to be mobile. At the same time, you need a base of operation to start from. It's one of those things where I said, how much gas you got stored up? Well, I got all this ammo. How much gas you got stored? So you're going to be walking in less than a month, right? And so when the scenario that everybody talks about everything, it'll be really, really bad for 4 or 5 months. And then after that, there won't be any vehicles running around. And then you can set up a stable, secure place, and they got to walk to you. And by then you've made friends and acquaintances and you've got your own little supply thing going, and you know. But till then, it's going to be mobility is the important thing. If it gets too hot around here, being able to move someplace a little better and wait for it to thin out. And there's a lot of very nice swamps I know that most people are scared to go into. There's some nice islands in the middle of them things. You can live really, really good and eating off a shell cracker and alligator and everything else, and not have to worry about too many visitors, because you got, 14, 15 foot long reptilian guard dogs everywhere, and will make their life real interesting trying to get to you. You'll hear them coming. So, well, Justin, we're about to get off, but you finally showed up. I was wondering if you were going to hop in. Well, guys, like I said, next week I will not be doing live because I'll be out at camp on Thursday. I will have videos posted all along like I normally do, that I can post and have them go live then. So you will be seeing my videos. And I will be doing some little impromptu classes at the event that I'm just going to go around and say, okay, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, let's say, come down here and we're going to do a little class on hammocks. And the next day it'll be like we're going to do a class on knots, and we're going to talk about, cordage and stuff like that. And one of the days I'm going to talk about my navigation with nothing. If anybody wants to try that, I'm trying to refine my class a little bit. And so I'm going to use you guys as guinea pigs to help me out with it. And we're going to talk about how to do some of that stuff. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Let me see, one more second. Thank you very much. How many do you expect to attendance? I really don't know. And what I would like to, what do you think about Trap for Little Gibbler? Thanks. Really don't know. Sorry, don't get the reference. How many people? It's varied anywhere from 60 to 100. I think we had 66 one time. We had 108 one time. It just depends on whatever. And do me a favor, if you're planning on going, please go to my social media, which is Facebook, Blackie Thomas. And I'm going to, right after this, as soon as I get off here, I'm going to go post it on there and say, okay, I need a head count. How many are planning to attend? And if you are, say I'm coming. And that way I can get a rough idea. So I know how much firewood to get. We're going to be okay with a half cord, or we need 2 cords. I want to at least have some firewood for us to be able to use at the event. Outdoors with Sean. Okay, I'm going to try to make some cat head biscuits out there. I'm trying to rediscover my biscuit making ability from many years ago. So I'm going to bring my Dutch oven. I'm going to try to make biscuits. And so I'll let you know if you want to come over and be a guinea pig, you can have a biscuit. Well, guys, good luck, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. And till next time, be safe. Hang in there.